Greetings, everyone. Dr. Brian Scott with you this week here in the middle part of June. We're looking at a couple of things that have arisen of late and been reported on in the news. Situation here concerning the relationship between children and their parents and their school and their gender issues that are causing quite a bit of concern. We're coming at this today from this perspective. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. It indicates that, know this, in the latter days, in the latter times, perilous times will come. Perilous means extremely dangerous, uncontrollable, unexpected, unpredictable, exceedingly dangerous times, like really dangerous times. And I've come across two articles that I've been sharing in this week's podcast on the Insight to the End Times that deal with the conflict between parents and schools over what the parents are entitled to know about their own children, and so on and so forth. And it is not a pretty scene, because our Judeo-Christian morals, values, and standards that we have been raised on, I'm speaking about maybe the baby boomer population, those born in the 50s and 60s following the Second World War, schooled in Judeo-Christian values. We're seeing that shift dramatically here in these early parts of the 21st century. This has become a major issue over the last number of years, and probably has been going back much further, but we are only becoming aware of it in the last few years. We looked at the fact yesterday and the day before that schools in Ontario, Canada, have explicitly been told by the school boards and by the bureaucrats that parents aren't entitled to know anything about their child's gender wishes or choices that are made during the school day. And apparently what is occurring is a student comes to school as a biological male and decides they are going to be a female that day, or vice versa. And the school teachers, principals, etc., they are not entitled to share that information with parents or caregivers unless the student has explicitly given them permission. And the reference was to a 6 or 7 year old Johnny coming to school, deciding he wants to be Jane, and unless he's given explicit instructions to the teacher to share that with the parents, the teacher can't tell the parents, hey, your little boy chose to be a little girl today. Now this is what I call perilous times. And the reason I'm sharing it with you is to highlight the fact that perilous times are starting to impact us in ways we never saw possible before. The scripture says in Luke chapter 21, I believe it is, that when this occurs, when you start seeing these things occur, you better look up, because redemption is drawing nigh. We're getting to the very end. In the June 3rd issue of the National Post newspaper here in Canada, there was an article. It's in the issues section, and it's entitled, "The Court Chooses Gender Activism." And this is disturbing because trials are to be fair, and they are to be impartial, and they are to be decided on principles of the law, not on social issues or cultural issues of the day, which change from time to time. I studied to get my law degree. I practiced law for quite a few years. I have a keen interest in what's happening in the courts, even though I have retired from that profession some years ago to be involved in ministry and involved in things such as these insights to the end times. Where are we in God's timetable? I look at these articles as indicators of where we are in God's timetable. In this particular issue, an article, the case that they were deciding at the Supreme Court of Canada level, the highest level in Canada, involved a school board trustee as well as a teacher, a member of the British Columbia Teachers Federation. And there was a question raised by the trustee that I'm not sure we should be teaching this gender issue the way we are. Gender is determined by birth, not by social contract. That makes sense to me. Even the atheist Richard Dawkins, as I referred to in an earlier podcast, said there are only two genders, male, female. That's it. Anything beyond that is utter nonsense, as he said. So this case was brought by a trustee saying, I'm not pleased with the fact that we are proposing genders as a social determination rather than a biological. The teacher responded with very harsh words, saying that this man was bigoted and hateful. So there's a case that goes to the courts. It ends up at the Supreme Court. And here's what's disturbing about their decision. They came down on the side of the teacher as opposed to the trustee because they chose to support gender activism. And instead of just simply deciding on the merits of the law in effect, they decided to support a cultural, social type norm in simplistic language. The dissent, the one judge who dissented in this decision said that we should not be protecting a social norm over the fairness of the law. I quite agree with that. But all of that to say this: the courts are leaning in favor of things that are not biblically ordained or supported. They have always been based on Judeo-Christian values in our society, and that's shifting, and it's another sign of the perilous times that we're living in. Most of this goes unnoticed and unheeded, but we need to be aware. It's time to be looking up. Our redemption draws nigh. I'll finish this article with you tomorrow. I trust you'll be back to hear what we have to share with you. Thanks so much. Bye now.